My name is Bernadette Kristaponis. I'll take the mask off. And I want to thank the fellowship for inviting me to speak on Reiki this morning. I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to share my path. A little bit on my background. My background early on is medical. I've been a Reiki master teacher since 2008. I've studied both traditional Reiki, getting a master teacher certification for that, as well as a lot of non-traditional Reiki practices. I feel that in these times, we need to use all of our gifts, and we need to connect with whoever Spirit sends our way. So again, I'm really grateful that you asked me, Dick, to do this. I appreciate it. The system of healing that we know as Reiki was rediscovered, and I use the quotes, rediscovered, in the early part of the 20th century by a Japanese scholar and mystic, Mikao Usui. Out of an interest in all of the healing techniques of Jesus, Buddha, and other great healers, he searched and found a formula, it is reported, in Sanskrit for healing. I stop here and just say that there are so many histories written about the discovery of Reiki. There are so many different stories about this whole path and how it was discovered and where he was and what he was doing and what his background was. My feeling is that it really doesn't matter. If we look at our own history, depending on who you talk to, you look at your family and you ask, oh, tell me about my history. What do you remember? Everybody will have a slightly different focus, or they'll remember different things. They'll remember what's important to them. So my perspective on the history of Reiki is just that here was a man on a search. He was a spiritual man. He wanted more answers. When he found this formula in Sanskrit healings, he practiced. And a lot of people, and a lot of men, that they all practiced together, they discussed it. They never could master or manage the healings that were talked about in these Sanskrit readings. So, in the early 1900s, as most seekers do, he went to Mount Kuriyama in Japan for meditation, a 21-day meditation. And it is said, again in history, that he had 21 stones set around his cave. Each day, he would remove one of the stones. During the day, he would study, he would read, he would meditate, waiting and hoping for the inspiration that he was seeking. Day after day, one stone at a time, he never reached the point of his search until the last day. And isn't that always the case? You know, we have a plan. And Spirit says, not my time, human being, not your time, my time. We'll wait, we'll see what happens. On the 21st day, he's getting ready to leave his cave, and I can only imagine that he was disappointed in not getting his answer, in not realizing how to put all of his teachings and all of his intellectual work. He couldn't make it active. On the 21st day, it is said that as he was in his last meditation, he saw this intense light coming from space, coming from the sky, coming down towards him. And he waited, and yes, the light hit him. In that moment of inspiration or huge change, it is said that he saw the colors of blue, of white, of purple, in the form of bubbles. And within these bubbles, it is said that there were the Sanskrit, not formulas, but Sanskrit symbols glowing in gold. We know that Yusui, when he came down from Mount Kuriyama, brought a lot of change with him. He was changed on the mountain. It is said, again, depending on who you want to read in the history books, it is said that coming down from the mountain, there were several really huge and instrumental to his practice, really big healing opportunities. Several with himself, and several with other people who he did not know. As a parent, or as just a human being, we know that if we run into somebody who is hurting or sad, and we sense that, what is our most common reaction or response? We put our hand on their shoulder. If a child comes to you and they're injured, what do? We hug, right? Or we put our hands on their busted knee or their elbow or their shoulder. This is normal human activity, response. So coming down from the mountain, Yusui encountered people who were injured. He injured himself. First thing he does, put his hands on his knee, put his hands on his foot. And then he noticed, oh, something's changed. The pain is gone. The person he encountered who was in pain or injured suddenly was healed, feeling better. So again, he practiced, he observed. When he came down back to Kyoto in his school, he taught his students about this healing techniques that he was mastering, he was perfecting. Again, here is a man who's very intelligent, who's coming from a school of, this is how you practice healing. This is how you practice making people feel better. And noticing that things didn't always work out, didn't follow the expectation. One of the things that he taught his students was about this hands-on healing. And what they did was they went into the beggar communities of Kyoto to work on people who were ill, who were injured. He worked on them to help heal. What he started to notice was that the same people that they had worked on maybe last week or the week before were coming back to his clinics with the same physical issue. More study, more discussion, more meditation on this. He came to realize that part of the problem was there was no energy exchange. There was not the willingness on the person that they had worked on for healing to accept responsibility for their part in their own dysfunction. One of the things that they really looked at was when people did not come back, did their circumstance change? And it was noted that a lot of people that they had worked on for healing never showed up again. But they had moved out of their beggar community. They had moved out of a really negative and painful situation. So that is when Yusui really started to see and put together the fact that there has to be an energy exchange. There has to be a willingness on the person who is receiving to be responsible for how that might change their life and what is their responsibility. The change in, or the shift in energy, the energy exchange could have been financial. It could have been, oh, you did this great work for me. Here's a chicken. You know, how many family doctors over eons of time, have worked with families and gotten paid in food. They've gotten paid in like services. Nowadays, how often do we, either as healers, teachers, or just normal human beings, trade services? I think that in the future, bartering is going to come back as something really important, because not everything needs to be focused on the green rectangle, as I call it. So if we can begin to take responsibility for ourselves, we understand that making certain decisions, this has led to a health situation, or this has led to a spiritual crisis, this has led to depression, etc., etc. So with Usui's principle of the energy exchange, we can begin to take more responsibility, or maybe just take a different kind of responsibility for our life. In Tokyo, Usui created a healing system based on all these practices, but using and expecting the balance. People taking responsibility, a change of energy, a change of consciousness, a willingness to say, oh yeah, circumstances brought me to this situation. How can I help change? The one thing that Usui really focused on was the concept of, he created what's called now Reiki Principles. And for me, as a Reiki master, as a Reiki practitioner, there are only 3 words that are important. And again, if you look online, you look at any of the books on Reiki, you will see various, we'll call them interpretations of the Reiki principles. But what is consistent is the first 3 words, just for today. So like in many meditations or spiritual practices, for me, the Reiki principles, just for today. That is how I try to live my life. So just for today might be, just for today, I'm going to eat healthier. Just for today, I'm going to treat myself with love. Perhaps just for today, I'm not going to get angry at somebody who is not so nice to me. But again, the bottom line is just for today. His principles were, just for today, I will give thanks for many blessings. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will do my work honestly. Just for today, I will be kind to my neighbor and all living things. Some of the things that I have read, just for today, I will respect my elders. Just for today, I will respect my parents, my boss. Again, you can put whatever you want in there. The bottom line is, how do we continue to move our lives forward, taking responsibility? But if we start with just for today, we have it covered. So think about just for today. Reiki, the word, R-E-I-K-I, is made up of 2 Japanese characters. Rei, R-E-I, is the spirit of God. Ki is life force. And again, when you read, there are many people who have different interpretations of that, and that's fine. Spirit connects with people in a lot of different ways. And when people are moving in a purely intellectual pursuit, their understanding of some of these spiritual characteristics and some of this spiritual-based energy work might be different. Again, it's up to you. Spirit allows us to work in many ways, And the words are just words. So how do we use the energy? Reiki is spiritually directed universal energy. Anybody can learn how to do it. Anybody can use it. Anybody can be attuned to using Reiki energy. And that means not just adults, that means children. I know children who have been attuned to level 1 Reiki, and they use it on themselves, they use it on their pets, they use it on their friends. Reiki is not of the mind. Reiki is of the heart. And Reiki is where you connect with spirit, and the energy just flows out. The universal energy that flows through our hands in concentrated form when we use our hands for healing, this is how the energy flows. There are many forms of spiritual healing, and there are many forms of, as far as forms meaning labels, okay? So there are people who do various kinds of hands-on healing. I can only address Reiki. I've been attuned to Reiki, like I said, since my first attunement was in 2007. My first experience with Reiki was back in 1973. And it started changing my entire life then. And it wasn't until much later that all the pieces started coming together, which I think is pretty common for most people, especially when we're working with energy and we're working with spirit. There must be a free flow of energy, or ki, or chi, as some people pronounce it, to all parts of the body. Mind, it's working with body, mind, and spirit in order for the person to have full health. Health comes on many levels. I mean, you can have people who are so healthy in their physical body, but their dis-ease may be within their spiritual life. Their dis-ease may be in their mental and emotional life. Reiki can work on all those aspects. When I do a Reiki session with someone, I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge. Somebody comes to me, we talk about what's going on, and I explain to them, they are in charge of their healing. If I'm working on you, Dick, you're in charge of your healing. I can facilitate things. And what I do when I do a Reiki session on someone is I ask for spirit to come through me, to come through my crown, down through all my chakras, and then out my hands. When I do hands-on healing, my hands are placed on or near the body, and I let spirit do the work. Spirit then connects with the person that I'm working with. And it's that connection that facilitates the healing. It's up to the person I'm working with to take that in and begin to make those changes. It is, out of all of the healing modalities that are out there, and I've been exposed to a lot of them, this is the only one that's ever called me. I like it because it's portable. All I need is me. It works by intention. I do a lot of distance work. I do a lot of, especially through COVID, I've done a lot of distance work where I will make connections with somebody, we'll sort of set up an appointment. And it's like, okay, during this time, I'm going to be sending Reiki to you. I don't have to have my hands on that person. So I can do it because I'm working with spirit. I can do it that way. Reiki really is founded on the natural ancient law that illness or disease is a matter of being out of balance. So when somebody is out of balance, I don't need to be right there. I can work with them via distance. The whole goal for me as a Reiki practitioner is to continue to be in harmony with myself and spirit, so that spirit can help remind me, oh, this is where you're out of balance. All right, let's work to get back in balance. Am I in perfect health, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, physically? Not always, because I'm a human being. So I recognize that I continue to work on finding balance. My work with other people is that same thing. How can I help you find balance? We all have to take responsibility for our particular situation. We have to take responsibility for our physical health, mental health, financial health. Are we all perfect human beings? Absolutely not. That's why we've got, a lot of different things going on. But if I can help someone regain or reassess at first and then regain being in balance, that's success. That's success. Reiki brings together the God energy of the universe and the life force of the body. So it helps make that connection stronger. It's just like meditation. It's like when we meditate, what we are doing is we are connecting with spirit and requesting that energy come down through us for various purposes and reasons. Most of us it's like, all right, let me meditate, and that will bring me, I need peace, I need some quiet, I need some answers. Okay? That's what meditation's all about. I like to say too that Reiki really is a different kind of active meditation. It's a different connection we have with spirit, because we are asking spirit specifically for guidance and healing. We create a powerful connection with spirit when we work with Reiki energy. Reiki supports the body's natural ability to heal oneself. Reiki balances both the body, loosens up any energies or any areas that are rigid, and allows the flow of natural energy throughout. Again, it's body, mind, spirit. That's what we're working with. When you go get a massage, there is a particular formula that your therapist follows to take care of those tight spots in your body. You go in, you say, oh, I've injured my shoulder. So they know that in order to deal with the shoulder, they've got to go through the pattern of healing, the pattern of moving muscles, moving joints, all of that. I'm not a massage therapist, because I prefer, personally, to just know, oh, they've got an issue with the shoulder. All right. It's not my job to fix it. What my job as a Reiki practitioner is to do is help connect with spirit and say, all right, spirit, work with this person. Heal whatever is going on. So, again, I step out of the way. I'm a conduit. That's all. I'm a conduit. Reiki sessions can take anywhere from 15 minutes to well over an hour. When I do a session with someone, Now let me back up. Typically and traditionally, there's a pattern of the hand positions. And I remember when I was trained in Norfolk, and I remember being told, okay, Reiki 1 practitioner, 5 minutes on each hand, on each place. I never realized how long 5 minutes was until I had to pay attention to the ticking clock. And I remember her saying, oh, get a CD that has the tingshas that will, clink every 5 minutes. Again, 5 minutes is a really long time when you're paying attention to 5 minutes. When I moved into Reiki 2, then she said, okay, more experience now with working with the energy. Now, 3 minutes for each hand position. And I thought, oh, this is great. Only 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a really long time when you are paying attention to the time frame. What I have learned over years of practice and study is that the time is irrelevant. And what I have learned is to trust that when I need to move to the next position on the body, I'll be guided. Sometimes it's the temperature of my hands will change. Sometimes there is just a knowing. I'm an empath, I'm clairvoyant, I'm clairsentient. And I've learned to trust all of those gifts. So now when I work with somebody, again, it is years of experience and it's years of trust. But now I know when I have to move. I've also learned that I don't typically use the traditional hand positions. I go where I'm guided. Typically, I do not ask my clients, well, we'll talk about what's going on. And I prefer them not to say, oh, well, I busted my knee or I've got low back pain. I prefer not to know. I want to know. I just want them to relax. And then we'll see what shows up. We'll see where are my hands guided. What do I feel as I'm working on somebody? And I just remembered, the whole thing here today was supposed to be an introduction to Reiki. Well, it's really hard for me just to do an introduction. The typical Reiki levels, Reiki 1, which is basic. Reiki 1 is all about doing for yourself. So when I have a student for Reiki 1, there is an attunement after I will say there's education, there's an attunement, and then there's practice. What an attunement does is it opens up their crown chakra, and it opens them up to specifically source energy for healing. The Reiki symbols, as a Reiki master, it is my responsibility to make sure that I work with my students a lot. I will not accept just anybody for a class. There's a lot of preparation that I do with my prospective students because I want to know, where's this person, where do they want to go? Am I the right connection for them? There are a lot of Reiki Master teachers out there, and I want to make sure that the person I'm working with as a student trusts me to give them the right information, and I want to make sure that I trust them to use this information in a positive and healing way. So there's a lot of conversation that happens. As a Reiki Master, what I do during attunement is that I place the Reiki symbols in the palm of their hand They also go in their crown. That's part of the attunement. It's a very sacred process. It's really hard to describe, but a Reiki One, that's part of Reiki One. Opening up the crown chakra, opening up their abilities to do this work. Part of the attunement and that opening process then starts a 3-week period of chakra clearing, which can be really intense. It can be really mild. The first week can be, oh, everything's fine, nothing's happening. The second week, it can knock them on their butt. And what I try to explain to my students is, when I do an attunement, not only am I opening their chakras, and I am working with them to become Reiki One practitioner, I also go through that same process myself. So my classes typically are very small because I like to have that, I will call it intimate interaction. When it's too many people, there's too much energy, and it's hard for people to get questions answered. It's hard for people to feel safe, because this really touches people on every level, but it touches them in their souls. And so I want to make sure that my students are safe, protected, and we also can have a good time, learn from each other. Reiki One is about doing Reiki on yourself. So my students have a responsibility. I have that personal responsibility of doing Reiki on myself every day. Because my goal is to be as consistently healed as possible. So I do Reiki on myself every day. My students do Reiki on themselves every day. As a Reiki One student, you can then practice on somebody else. And again, it's practice. It's like anything else. In order to become really proficient at what we're doing, we need to practice. Whether it's making cookies, whether it's driving a car, whether it is, in the old days, ironing a shirt so it looks right, whether it is figuring out and learning how to listen to the signals that your body or your spirit is sending you. So it's practice. I don't have a definite time that people need to be Reiki One practitioners before they go into the next level. As I tell my students, I will know when you're ready, and then I will arrange a class. So my class, unlike other teachers where, they've got this regular class schedule for an entire year, and you have to see where you fit in. I work purely on an intuitive basis, and I will know when my students are ready for the next level, and then I'll present a class, and we'll see who also feels ready to sign up. Reiki 2 is a deeper dive into using this energy. In the Reiki 2 class, and again, another attunement, same process, but in the Reiki 2 class, we talk about all the symbols. People learn how to write the symbol, how to say the name, how to use it, also how not to use it. There's 3 main symbols that Reiki 2 students learn. They are able then to use those symbols when they are doing a session on somebody to raise the energy, raise the vibration some during the session. In Reiki 2, you also learn how to do distance Reiki. There's a whole procedure set up. Mindfulness is really key. We talk a lot about mindfulness. We talk a lot about meditation, how to prepare yourself to do a distance healing with someone. how to work with groups in distance healing, how not to get burnt out. So again, it's like, it's just the next level. Reiki, the third level is Reiki Master Teacher. And I've always been of the mindset that not everybody needs to be or should be a master. Reiki Master is about, this becomes your lifestyle or the way you live your life, using that energy. And there are, like I said, many, many teachers, many philosophies about doing classes, teaching. Again, I don't feel that everybody needs to or should be a Reiki Master or a Master Teacher. Not everybody can teach, for one thing, but not everybody needs to be at that level. So I have pretty strict criteria when somebody says, oh, when are you teaching your Reiki Master class? And it's like, well, we have a lot to talk about. Because I am not willing to send somebody on that journey if they really haven't mastered the first level or the second level. I need to know what do you want to do with this? Why do you want to, is it just the credentialing? So, every teacher is different. Every teacher is different. And I think that is the value of talking with different people, finding out, oh, well, how do you feel about using this energy? Why did you become a Reiki practitioner? How do you use the energy? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Then please don't tell me that you are a Reiki practitioner. If you don't use it, it's like if you have gone through all the testing and all the training to be able to drive those huge trucks that we see everywhere, it's an expense, it's time involved, it is a lot of training, it's a lot of responsibility. It's great, you got that, CDL license. But then if you find that you never use it, but you advertise, oh, I have this license, but you choose never to use it, then stop advertising you have the license. This is the one thing that probably gets me into trouble, but that's okay. That's my perspective. When we have something of value, use it. If you find that you have the thing of value but you never use it, set it aside. Set it aside and move on with life. Using Reiki is such a powerful but subtle gift. And it's that connection that we have with spirit that is, again, subtle but powerful. And like any gift, it needs to be recognized. That's my perspective. Is that every Reiki person's perspective? No. But that's my perspective. Trying to think. Dick, what else do you need to know?
Could you talk a little bit about the results and any case studies that
Sure.
you've had?
I cannot say I've done case studies, but watching results with clients, I always ask people to give me feedback. When somebody's on the table and I get information for them, either someone shows up, I'll give you a recent example. A couple of months ago, I started working with a woman who was probably just in her 60s. And it was a very interesting session because in a session, I always welcome all the Reiki masters. I welcome Yasui, Dr. Takata, Mrs. Hayashi. I welcome them to assist me to do a session for the person's highest good. So always when I do work, it is for my client's highest good, whether it's in person or distance. And in this session, very rapidly, I will say, my healing room filled up with entities, with beings. And some of them I recognize because they are my guides that typically show up. But on this particular evening, it was like, what did it say, in living color? It was pretty powerful. And then there was a gentleman at the end of the table who I could see. I had no idea who he was. And typically when people show up in my room, in my healing room, I will ask, it's like, can you tell me who you are so that we can move this through? I always make sure that the connection is for their highest good. And so when I see a being who is in my space, I always remind them they are there for our highest good. That's the bottom line. For the highest good. If you are not here for the highest good, there's the door, physical and otherwise. During the session, there were places on her body that she was really, really feeling very rigid. And the longer I kept my hands there, I could feel things soften. And that's typically what I'll feel. I will feel things in the physical body soften. I may also get a sort of a mental guidance. Spend a little more time in the heart area, or spend a little more time in there on one side or the other. And with her, the whole body, she was really tight. So it was a long session, and it was, I just waited for the body to soften. At the end of the session, the being that was still at the end of the table, because I kept requesting, who are you? So that I can tell my client that you showed up. So I finally got a name. And so at the end of the session, we were talking, and I gave her feedback on what I felt in her body. I told her that her whole body felt really rigid, really tight. And the longer I kept my hands in different places, I could feel things soften. And I asked her, I said, so what was going on for you? She gave me the same feedback, which is really nice. Doesn't always happen, but she gave me the same feedback. She said, I was really nervous about having this done. I've heard all about it, but this is my first experience. Okay, so no wonder there was some rigidity. In different parts of the body where literally I could not move my hands for a very long time, she had some digestive issues. She had had a knee injury. Okay. And then I talked to her about the gentleman that had appeared. And that's when the tears started. Because I had gotten his name. And it was her ex-husband who was on the other side. And there was a great deal of unresolved grief. And so we spent a long time processing that. So I listened. She talked. I listened some more. So when she finally left, I gave her the suggestion that, especially over the next 2 or 3 days, she spend some time in meditation and reach out to this being. Reach out to this person on the other side who had showed up for her Reiki session. I don't invite people to show up. I don't invite spirits, saints, archangels. I don't invite them. They just come for whoever's on the table. Their support. Spirit always knows who needs support, and they send them. So over the next couple of days, I stayed in touch with her, and she said that every night she set the intention that she connect with her ex-husband in the dream state. All I will say is that they worked through a lot of stuff that they were not able to work through in the present, in the physical. With each client, it's different. When she came back, that whole issue had been resolved. When she came back a couple of weeks later, we worked on other things. So I think that it's, for everybody, it's individual. I will admit there are lots of very detailed studies with that are more scientifically arranged and documented. Okay? There are people who are the Reiki masters who are doing a lot of work in hospitals, doing not only research, but also helping clients, helping patients, as well as helping medical professionals. So there are a lot of hospitals that are doing that kind of documented research. It's always been my great hope to be able to work in the hospitals here. And for reasons I'm not real sure of yet, but they're not physical reasons, they're more the connection I have with spirit, I'm not moved in there yet. I do have a certification as I am a certified medical Reiki master. And my certification allows me to actually work with patients in a hospital setting, even in the OR or in infusion centers. I did that when I was in Arizona. And I've also worked with hospice. So, Reiki can be used anywhere. It can be used in the home. It can be used in healing centers. It can be used in hospitals. It can be used in hospice. It brings great peace to people who are hospice patients, people who are approaching the end of life. Reiki is about relaxation. When you're relaxed, you can heal. So, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.